We are only a few days away from the Nintendo Switch 2 finally launching, so you know what that means? I can stop starting every video with basically that same sentence! No, but really, with the Switch 2 just around the corner, it's about time we say goodbye to the original Nintendo Switch with one final video. I mean, I'm still gonna make videos on Switch 1 games after, but whatever, shut up. And I thought a fitting end to the Switch 1 era would be a video talking about not only my favorite game on the console, but my favorite game ever made, Super Mario Odyssey. I have so much nostalgia for this game as I basically loved every second of it. Basically every second of it. See, while I do love Mario Odyssey, there are just a few things about it that aren't great. So today, I thought it was time to finally cover my nitpicks on Super Mario Odyssey. Who knows, maybe Switch 2's 3D Mario game will be able to fix some of these. It's definitely still gonna happen this year. Now, I've made nitpick episodes on basically every major Switch game that I care about, so what's taking me so long to reach Mario Odyssey? Well, the truth is, I really don't have that many nitpicks. It's my favorite game, like I said, so I love almost everything about it. Originally, I was planning to just not do an episode on the game due to not having enough content. But then I got a devious idea. See, in every episode of this series, I make a post in the community tab asking for your all's nitpicks as well, and I include whichever ones I find to be the most interesting. So what if today, we get most of the nitpicks from the community tab, and I run defense for Mario Odyssey. As always though, we will start with a few nitpicks I did have of my own before we get to the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let's jump right in. If I had to pinpoint one main reason that I love Mario Odyssey, it would have to be the controls. This is by far the best controlling game I have ever played. They nailed everything from Mario's physics to his moveset, so it feels great jumping around and exploring every kingdom in the game. It's even fun just trying to do random trick jumps even if they are entirely pointless. But with how much I love the controls, there is one tiny mistake that always bugs me and I never understood why they did it. Now when I say tiny, I do mean it, as 99% of players will absolutely not notice this. But for some reason, it's basically impossible to do the Cappy down throw on the Pro Controller. If you didn't know, there are several different ways to throw Cappy: forward, in a circle, up, and down. For the most part, each are pretty simple to do. Forward you press Y, for the circle you shake the controller to the side, and for up you shake the controller upward. So for the down throw, you would think you just have to move the controller down, right? Trying to do that on a Pro Controller will just result in Mario throwing Cappy forward. Now that does work when using Joy-Cons, so that raises the question, why doesn't it work on a Pro Controller too? Luckily, the downward throw is not required throughout the game at any point, but it is pretty annoying to just not have access to a move. You can still do a downward throw by ground pounding and then pressing Y when you land, but it's impossible to do the aerial version of the throw on the Pro Controller. Doing the aerial version can be helpful to get a Cappy bounce in a tight space, which a lot of people like to use for trick jumping, so it's a shame that this move is just locked out of the Pro Controller for seemingly no reason. Alright, now onto what's probably the most common nitpick about the game that I definitely agree with. I wish there was more to the Ruined Kingdom. This kingdom has one of the coolest aesthetics in any Mario game, and it's one of the most memorable locations throughout the entire journey. I love the dark atmosphere as it really stands out compared to every other Mario level. It's a shame we're there for like 5 seconds. Yeah, Ruined Kingdom is one of the game's mini kingdoms. These are defined by their tiny moon count compared to everywhere else, and the fact that they do not have any purple coins. Of the 4 mini kingdoms, Ruined is definitely the saddest. The dark and darker side are both just expansions on the moon kingdom, so I don't mind them being small. As for Cloud Kingdom, well, it kinda sucks, so I don't care that much. Ruined though had so much potential. It would have been so much fun to explore a big landscape that had been ravaged by the Lord of Lightning. Even if this was only a medium kingdom and not one of the large ones, I would have been happy with that, but it seriously feels like they wasted such a cool concept. At the very least, the boss fight here is really good, so the content Ruined does have is great. I just hope that the next 3D Mario game can revisit the idea for one of its levels. Mario Odyssey 2, save me! Speaking of the dark side, one of the main advantages of this kingdom is the fact that it allows you to replay the brutal fights alongside the Robo Brood. I always appreciate when games let you go back and refight bosses after the fact, as it can be kinda sad to have to replay the entire game again in case you want to go through that segment again. The Mushroom Kingdom also lets you refight the main bosses, and I like how each of them have been slightly remixed to make them a harder challenge. For example, the floor in the Lord of Lightning's fight is now slippery. The fights on the dark side have also been remixed, but I don't like how these were done. Instead of making them harder, I'd argue they made each of them way easier here. Now granted, that might have been done because the idea for this area is that it's a boss rush, but I can't say I'm a fan personally. Each of the fights against the Brutals are under the effects of moon gravity, which allows you to much more easily jump and avoid their attacks. That is especially bad in the case of the Robo Brood, as you could just easily climb up the mech now without struggling whatsoever. Now I don't necessarily hate that they gave these guys a fight on the moon, because it is unique from their other battles. The boss rush is a lot of fun, and I think it acts as a good challenge. What I don't like is the fact that this is the only way to refight the Brutals in and Robo-Brood in the post-game. I wish there were paintings that led to each of them individually without moon gravity, so we could replay those versions of the fight. That would especially be nice for the Robo-Brood, as that could act as a good way to practice doing that fight fast, which requires a lot of precise jumps. It would also be nice to have paintings so we could just skip to whichever Broodal we want to fight without having to face the others. I mean, what if I really wanted to fight Rango? So yeah, while I do like the Dark Side challenge as a moon, I wish there was a way to refight these guys in normal gravity. Alright, now I want to speedrun through a few quick ones before I get to my final big nitpick. One cute little detail of the game is the fact that Mario's sprite in the 2D sections will actually match the costume he's wearing. I think that's really cute, but sadly it only works when you're wearing the full outfit. If you want to go in wearing this monstrosity, it's sadly going to look normal. I think it would be cool if you could mix and match the sprites just like you can with the costumes. That might have been hard for some of the outfits, but I think it would have been cool if they got that to work. To buy costumes, you normally need purple coins, and for the most part, I really liked how purple coins were handled in this game. It was a lot of fun exploring each kingdom and looking around for them, with the exception of 3 coins in Sand Kingdom. In my first playthrough, I spent forever trying to find the last 3 coins I needed to get the full 100. Sand Kingdom is the game's largest kingdom layout-wise, so there was a lot of space to cover. I probably spent a good couple hours on my first playthrough looking for these, only to discover they're just hanging off the edge at a random part of the kingdom. I think this is the most insane placement of purple coins in the entire game, and I think it's just a bit too obscure. Maybe if this is a smaller kingdom it would have been okay, but again, sand is massive, so there are a lot of ledges to look over. That's also hurt by the fact that the only way to track purple coins is with the Wedding Bowser amiibo, which most players are not going to have. That's the reason I was able to find these coins in the end, but for people without the amiibo, I feel like these are a bit absurd. And finally, for this rapid fire round, why didn't this get real DLC? I needed it so bad. Okay, but for my final nitpick before I start making fun of the comments, I of course have to mention Toadette. I've gone on record saying that Toadette is Mario Odyssey's biggest flaw, and I still agree with that assessment. In concept, I think she's really cool, basically acting as a way for the game to have achievements. It'll track the number of times you do all sorts of different actions like jumping, collecting coins, etc. I'm very happy these exist, as they allow us to create our own challenges like a jumpless run where the game automatically tracks that for us. The main purpose of these achievements though are of course to reward the player with moons. There are 61 moons tied to achievements, and in order to get them, you have to talk with Toadette after passing the threshold. Problem is, she doesn't give you all the moons at once. Instead, you have to keep talking to her over and over again, just spamming the A button and watching the moon cutscene for potentially several minutes straight. I have no clue why they did it like this, as it's extremely tedious. Maybe it doesn't feel as bad if you don't have all the achievements done at once, but having to constantly run back to Toadette doesn't sound like a fantastic solution either. I really wish that she would simply give you all the achievement moons you earned at once. In a game that I feel like mostly avoids feeling tedious due to its fast pace, this always sticks out whenever I go back to it. But now it's time. Mario, get behind me. It's time to look through all the nitpicks you all left on the community tab. As I've made pretty clear, I'm not just choosing the ones I agree with, just the ones that I feel like will be the most interesting for discussion. That's not to say I disagree with all of them though. We'll start nice with one I actually do agree with. Jack's Game Room says, I wish when you captured something it would match the hat you're currently wearing and not always be the normal Mario hat. This is very similar to the thing I mentioned with the 2D sprites. I think it would have been a cute detail if the hat you threw onto the capture matched the hat you were wearing. There are quite a few different hat styles though, so I can understand that some of them would have been hard to implement. It just would have been a cool detail. It would have let me put sunglasses on Bowser. On the topic of costumes, Crazy Carlos 08 says, the fact that Fire Mario doesn't have an outfit. I know it wouldn't make sense without Fire Mario's actual power, but the Metal Mario outfit doesn't make you invincible. Yeah, I could definitely get behind this one. Fire Mario is his most iconic alternate design, so the fact that it keeps getting scanned out of everything is a bit rude. If it were up to me, I'd burn the classic outfit and replace it with Fire Mario. Wait a minute, that was 2 comments I agreed with. Where are the stupid dumb ones that are wrong? Well, for one I disagree with, we got Levital who says, the bosses do not take advantage of Mario's extremely fun and interactive moveset in any clever or meaningful way. They kind of feel like afterthoughts. This one, I'll be honest, I don't even understand because I completely disagree. I'd say Odyssey is the single best Mario game when it comes to boss fights utilizing his moveset. Ignoring the bosses that mostly use capture, since I'm sure they're talking about Mario's own moveset, there's still a ton of great stuff here. Using his movement to avoid attacks from the Lord of Lightning or Knuckle Tech fight is always a blast. The arenas are pretty open, so they give you a great chance to use all of his moves. More importantly though, many of the game's bosses utilize Mario's moveset to create some intentional and creative skips. Madame Brood, as a simple example, lets you time a jump and Cappy throw to capture her chain jump earlier than expected. Harriet lets you attack her early if you're able to aim your hat toss perfectly. And of course, my favorite example is the entire Robo-Brood fight, where you can actually use Mario's moveset to climb up the mech without ever using a Pokio. From there, you can even stay on top of the mech if you use Mario's moveset that correctly. These aren't even all the examples from the game, so I was genuinely confused as to what the issue is here. A lot of people seem to agree with this comment as well, but I can't even offer up their side of the coin because I really don't get it. If Odyssey is bad at this, then I think the entire Mario series has to be as well. Sticking with bosses for a second, Bluebell Railway Dude Roblox MK2 says, my nitpick is that we didn't have the Koopalings as bosses, but we had ugly looking rabbits. The best one I guess would be Rango. Speward, it's okay, they didn't mean that. I know this is gonna sound hypocritical after my last video talked about how much I like the Koopalings, but honestly, I like them trying to make some new bosses here too. I think the Broodals are a nice change of pace and pretty fun characters. I would still like the Koopalings to show up in a 3D game at some point, but I'm not mad at Odyssey for making something new. Colton and Scarlet says, I've never played Mario Odyssey, but I wanted to contribute, so here's my Mario text art. Okay, thanks man. Speaking of art, I guess, Mousecoder says, the art moons. It's annoying that you need to go to the screen capture menu to see it. Why couldn't they have added an in-game system to display it on screen while you're searching for it? The hint art moons are a group of moons I've seen criticized quite often, but honestly, I've always kind of liked them. I think for the most part, they're pretty cute little puzzles. There are definitely some that annoy me, but for the most part, I think they're all cool ideas. As for this comment specifically, I never minded having to go to the Switch capture menu. It's only a few button presses away, and most of the hint arts wouldn't even require you to look back and forth between the images to find them. Sure, maybe it would have been nice to include something to always have the picture up, but I didn't have a problem with this personally. The real L64YT says, the fact that the Pixel Mario costume is just the jumping pose clipping into the ground is super annoying. Like, this is one of the best selling Switch games and they couldn't even animate a 9,999 coin costume. I'm gonna be totally honest, I think the fact that the costume doesn't animate at all is really funny. Like, I understand why some may want it to actually be animated because that would look cool as well, but this approach made me laugh way harder than the other way would have. Eddie Odyssey says, my biggest nitpick has always been that the Deep Woods is unwarp-outable. It's such a big inconvenience. Alright, we're actually back to one I agree with. I like the idea of the Deep Woods a lot. Having a darker, more sinister area underneath the level if you fall is really cool. Unfortunately, it becomes more of an annoyance after playing the game for a while. Falling in just becomes a tedious waste of time because for whatever reason, it doesn't let you warp out of it. You have to find a seed and grow a vine to get out, which is cool the first time you do it, but it gets insanely annoying every other time. I get that they wanted the Deep Woods to feel like you've been trapped down there, but I think this is unnecessary. At the very least, it would have been nice if you could unlock a way to warp out by collecting a moon or something. Thor Brosen says, my biggest nitpick is that I haven't played the game in 4 years. Well, get on it! Nadertainment says, multiplayer is terrible. My sister and I always play New Super Mario Bros. Wii together, and we're both disappointed when the multiplayer of the cool new Mario game wasn't fun for whoever was playing as Cappy. I got quite a few comments on the multiplayer, and I fully understand why people say that. Coming off of 3D World, which I think has excellent multiplayer, Mario Odyssey feels a lot lamer in comparison with the second player just controlling Cappy. Personally though, I didn't have a huge issue with it because Odyssey is clearly not designed around multiplayer. I don't mind some games being single player. I mean, I wouldn't expect, say, Tears of the Kingdom to be 2-player, so I'm not upset that there's no multiplayer. That said, I do still understand the disappointment, and I hope the next game can come up with a multiplayer solution. I just don't think it was necessary for what Odyssey was trying to do. The Video Game 641 says, the fact that you can't normally ride Yoshi and you have to capture it. Honestly, this is another one I just totally disagree with being a problem. Controlling Yoshi in capture form feels way better than riding on him ever did. Honestly, there's really nothing that riding on Yoshi can let you do that you can't do while you're capturing him. I guess you can get a higher jump off of him when you're riding. Oh, that's what you want. I know what you are. Lucario8614 says, just beat Mario Odyssey for the first time a couple weeks ago, and now I'm trying to 100%. My biggest nitpick is just how staggeringly expensive it is to buy all the bonus costumes. I've spent hours doing the Bowser's Kingdom coin sub area and haven't come close to having bought them all yet. This one's a bit interesting as a nitpick as I would have agreed with it at launch, but I actually think they completely fixed this issue with an update. I too was stuck with the Bowser Kingdom sub area grind as that was how I got the last few costumes and moons I needed. That is absolutely tedious and I won't deny that, but since launch they added Luigi's Balloon World, which is a much faster and more fun way to collect a ton of coins. It's a great challenge for your knowledge of the game to not only find balloons, but also hide them yourself. Yeah, the fact that some people cheat and hide their balloons out of bounds is annoying, but most balloons you find won't have that issue. Now granted, some people may find Luigi's Balloon World annoying too, but I personally think it fixes the coin grind issue almost entirely. CPT Snickerdoodle IU3OK says, I hate that Mario Odyssey resulted in the death of Funny Dude and a replacement with this Odyssey Central guy.
Coward. We have a new world to conquer. Leave me alone, please.
General Penguin is Cool says, my biggest nitpick is that there's too many gosh darn moons. I enjoy 100%ing games in general, but Odyssey got really samey after a while. Having 736 moons is cool, but still, that's way too many in my opinion. Perhaps if there were closer to 600 I'd like it more, but it just feels like there's too many. I'll be honest, I was totally on the hunt for this nitpick in particular in the comments. This is quite possibly the most common criticism I see for Odyssey, and I just can't agree with it in the slightest. This is far from an Odyssey exclusive issue. I've seen people criticize Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom for having too many many Korok seeds as well, but I think that high amount of content is what makes these games so great. It's so much fun exploring all these games' worlds and picking up everything you can find. Yes, many of the moons do share concepts with each other, but how they're hidden and how they're executed changes between each one, making them, at least to me, worthwhile. I think this mindset of too much content comes from people feeling the need to 100% every game they play, and I just don't think you have to do that. Obviously, I've 100%ed Odyssey tons of times, but for Tears of the Kingdom, I didn't collect every Korok. Personally, I stopped when I felt like I was done with the game. I'm happy that there is so much content for the people that want to look for it, and I feel like it's just weird to ask for less content in a game. If the next 3D Mario was the size of, say, Bowser's Fury with like 100 cat shines, I would be very disappointed. I like Bowser's Fury as a small expansion, but it's not big enough to be a whole game for me. But I've heard people say Bowser's Fury is a better game than Odyssey because it has less shines, and that just confuses me, especially since I think that game repeats content just about as much as Odyssey does in terms of ratio. So yeah, point is, I think the too much content argument is weird, and you should just stop playing when you feel like you're done with the game. But to end us off here, we have Nathwit Music who says, 8 years since release and still no Batman. Trust me, 10-year anniversary Batman edition. It's gonna happen. But anyways, that's it for this video. Do you hate urban stingbees with all your heart and hate me for not mentioning them? Let me know in the comments. I hope you all enjoyed this final video for the Switch 1 era. In case you missed it, I'm not gonna be sticking with my Saturday upload schedule for the next few weeks. Not that I'm gonna be uploading less, I just want to upload videos as soon as they're done because I have a lot of content to make on Mario Kart World. So the video count should still be the same, it just won't be on a schedule for a little bit. But before I go, I've got to thank my members being Cassie Channel, Fredbear's Diner, Nathaniel B, Seth the Sunsun Villano, Luma, Blessed Tiger, Maidzio2, Yanni the Duck, Wyatt Derpy, Trader Mo, Mevins 2001, Nuclear, Kid Trunks 15, Caddy Shroom, Enchanted Skull, SMA, B Major 2003, Arson the Raboot, Sir Musty, Belandor, Puggles Are Fun, Diluted Colors, Cinder CC, Jade Avery, Pruncel Clone, Thicky Reiki, Ingenio TM, CW McCain, Tibby, JubeTube Tesseract, Mr. McMahon 5702, Hippopotamus, Jameson Pageson, Wilbur, Golden Sand 15, Z Frost, Stuffy Ant, Justex, Concanut to Keep, and Christian Flattery Sequel Edition. But anyways, dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.